Good evening. As you can see, I'm all prepared for the first review. Nightmare on Elm Street, let's go. Okay, so, the review of Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm all ready, I'm all dressed up. Let's go. So, in my personal, humble opinion, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, while it is a classic in horror, specifically slashers, right? It is not as scary as it used to be. Now, here is why. First off, the acting could have been a little bit better. Granted, these were the first time for all these actors. I don't think any of them, besides maybe the one that played Nancy, I don't think any of them have been in any prior works. Especially for the case of one of the most famous actors in the bunch, Johnny Depp. Yes, for those of you who do not know, Johnny Depp was indeed in Nightmare on Elm Street, and it was his first movie, although he was not as good as he is in, let's say, Pirates of the Caribbean, for example. Now, one thing I gotta say, one thing that I love about Nightmare on Elm Street, besides, Freddy, is the special effects are amazing. Like, let's take, for example, the spandex wall. It is one of the first instances of a dream for Nancy. A nightmare for Nancy, okay? And here's what happens. Nancy is asleep in Tina's bed while Tina is getting a little something from Rob. You know what I mean? Anyways, wait, is it Rob or Rod? Whatever, the greaser. You know what I mean. Nancy's asleep, and the crucifix falls onto her bed. It is at sort of like an angle. The crucifix falls onto her bed. She wakes up a little bit. She looks at the crucifix, puts it back on the wall, and then she goes back to sleep. Then Freddy pushes through the wall, sort of like pushes through, like he's trying to break into her mind, right? And you know what happens? She wakes up, and she knocks on the wall, and it's wooden again. It is a very simple effect, but it is really cool. And they absolutely ruined it in the remake from 2010. Now, when I say ruined, here's why. That part is CGI. It's not a special effect. It's just CGI. It's lame. Now then, the kills are good. They are pretty good. But I do have to say, some of the lamer parts of the special effects are the kills. Like the first one is Tina. Spoiler. The first one is Tina. The way she dies is Freddy's chasing her in a dream, right? He catches her. He thrashes her around, and then he lifts her up. She rises in reality like she's from the goddamn Exorcist. He stabs her right here below the rib, pulls down to her pelvis, and starts splurting blood. It's beautiful. And then she gets thrashed all around the room, leaving blood everywhere. It is quite a sight to see, but the actual kill itself was not that great. Mainly because they just sort of pulled her and just sort of like dragged her along the wall. That's one thing the remake from 2010 did right. It was just much better. Now, the character of Freddy, this is something I should discuss first. The character of Freddy is actually pretty decent. Most of the time, whenever we see him, he is in shadow. His face is hidden, like a film noir villain. It is awesome. We never see his face until the final confrontation. What? Wait, no, hold on. That's a lie. We do see it, but it's rare. It is quite rare. Now, Freddy, in this movie, compared to all the others, he is quite serious. He's not quite the jokester we know him to be. And it is quite a marvel, because he'll be running along, chasing someone. What he'll do is this. He'll take his claws and drag it along something. Now, since his are metal and not cardboard like mine, they make an awful noise. It's amazing. Let's see here. What else was there to Freddy? Oh yes, whenever he does joke, he's kind of funny. Like, whenever he goes, one of the main things is, come to Freddy. right? Then Nancy just goes, "God damn you!" And then his tongue just darts in and out of his mouth over and over. And then she burns her hand on a hot pipe and wakes up. That was quite good. Now Nancy, she's the main girl. And she is a great last survivor. She is quite, let's see here, how should I put it? She is quite intelligent, but she still has her moments of stupidity, as all people in slashers do. I'm not saying anyone is really smart or really dumb. They all have their moments. Except for Rod. He was kind of dumb. Now then, I'm just going to skip right to the final confrontation of Freddy. Actually, no, I can't do that. Rod Lane's death. One of the best practical effects in there. Freddy hangs him in a jail cell. You know how he does it? It's quite amazing. Let's see here. Freddy, right? He's in Rod's dream. Rod's sleeping. Freddy pulls a blanket and just sort of wraps it up, right, in reality, into sort of a rope. He takes the rope, wraps it around Rod's neck, ties it. That's when Rod wakes up. Then Freddy pulls it and drags him to the wall. Then Freddy loops it around the top bar and just pulls him up slowly. And Rod is choking. And that's when Nancy and the sheriff walk in, because Nancy wanted to visit Rod Lane. And that's how Rod died. Funny thing though, Rod Lane, the greaser, he got a funeral. But Tina did not. You know, the the goody two-shoes. She did not get a funeral. That's rather odd. Now for the final confrontation. It is quite the spectacle. Nancy, after having all her friends killed by this bastard, right? She is left with no one but her boyfriend Gil, played by Johnny Depp. Now, Johnny Depp has one of the most famous kills in the whole movie, but it's not really the most logical, I guess. Gil, or Bill, or Dill, whatever his name is, right? Yes? He falls asleep. Now, after he falls asleep, Freddy grabs him from inside his bed, pulls him into a hole, and then just a geyser of blood comes out through the hole. And then it just goes all along the room and up it goes all the way around. It's quite gross. It's disgusting. It's quite cool though. But it doesn't make the most sense. Now, Nancy witnessed this from across the street. And so she set up a whole bunch of booby traps along the, she set up a whole bunch of booby traps inside her house to try and catch Freddy, because she discovered that she can pull him out from her dream. Alright? Now, she sets up, after she sets up the traps, she goes to bed. Alright? But before that, she says that little prayer, you know? Now lay me down and sleep, I pray my Lord, my soul to keep, you know? That thing. When she falls asleep, she sets a timer for 10 minutes. She goes to sleep. She chases down Freddy, right? Freddy is disappearing, doing all these tricks and whatnot. And then she grabs him. She wakes up. Freddy is in her room now. He slashes at her, rips apart her pillow. Feathers are flying everywhere, right? And then she leaves the room after stunning him a little bit. She sets one of the traps, which is a sledgehammer on a hinge. That way when he opens the door and pulls the string, it smashes into his chest. But before that, she puts a latch into, she flips the latch so that way the door is locked, right? From the outside. Freddy is banging on the door and trying to rip it open, trying to get in the, trying to get out, right? And she goes down and sets up the other ones. She turns on the power. That way, when he trips the wire, the boom happens. And then she sets up the tripwire. Now then, when Freddy breaks out, the sledgehammer comes down right onto his ribs, When that happens, he backs up a little bit and then chases after her. He falls backwards down the stairs. And then when he does that, he's almost on top of Nancy. Nancy runs into the living room. Freddy runs and trips over a tripwire, she said. And then he snaps another tripwire, but this one's connected to a trap. It is connected to a light bulb full of gunpowder inside of a lamp. It explodes, and it shocks him. And then she goes down to the basement. He follows. She tosses kerosene onto him and lights him on fire again. Yeah. That was quite an amazing final thing. And then she locks him down there. She breaks open the windows and is yelling for her dad to come across, right? To get into the thing. And that's... Let's see here. And then they find that he escaped because there's fiery footprints all over the place where he went. They find out that that he's upstairs. So they go up there and they find Freddy choking her mother while still on fire. They put out the flames. Freddy is gone. But her mother is a pile of bones going into a hole made in the bed. And then the bed becomes a bed again. It's weird. And then the dad leaves. The door closes by itself. Freddy pushes up through the sheets and slashes his way out. He says a few smart lines, and then Nancy says one of the oddest lines. It doesn't make any sense to me. She says, I take back every ounce of power I gave to you. And then he supposedly dies, quote unquote, dies. Her mother comes back, but it's obviously a dream because she quit drinking. And then she gets into a car with her friends. Once that happens, the car roof comes down. It is in the color scheme of Freddy's sweater. And they drive off into the distance while the little girls sing their jump rope song. That is it. That is A Nightmare on Elm Street. I may do others, but here is my rating. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would I rate it? Well, for entertainment, it is a 7. Not a 7, an 8. It is an 8. For horror, it is a 4. For effects, it is an 8.5. Overall, I would give it a 7.5. Because I've watched it before, it's nothing I'm itching to get back into. Have a lovely night, and take your Hypnocell.